So in lesson 4 we were looking at frequency tables, and now in lesson 5 we're going to look at dot plots. We've already worked with dot plots some, but we're going to go through a little bit more detail on dot plots. So I asked a few students, how many Google Meets classes did you attend this week? Not that you were supposed to attend or that you had, but how many did you actually go to? And here are the answers that I had gotten. So I could put this into a frequency table, and there's really two ways to do that. You could make your tally marks, like I've got a 6, so I put a mark at 6. I've got a 2, I put a mark at 2. I've got a 0, I've got an 8, I've got a 3, I've got another 6, I've got a 4, I've got a 5, I've got a 2, I've got a 1, I've got a 5, I've got a 3, I've got another 6, I've got a 2, I've got a 1, I've got a 7, I've got a 6, and a 4. So I said there's kind of two ways. You could do it with the tally marks. I've got 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 4, 1, and 1, where you just go one at a time through your list. Or you could take your list and go, how many zeros? Oh, there's a 0. So there's 1 0. How many ones? Ah, there's a 1, and there's a 1, so there's 2. So it's just a matter of which way you prefer. Now that we have our frequency table, it's a little bit easier to see our data than when we just have it in a disorganized list. Now let's turn that frequency table into a dot plot. And so we start with 0. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you could go directly from your numbers to a dot plot. So how many zeros do we have? We have 1, so it gets 1 dot. How many ones? There are 2 ones, so 2 dots. How many 2s? There are 3. How many 3s? There are 2. How many 4s? There are 2. How many 5s? There are 2. How many 6s? Ooh, I have 4. How many 7s? And how many 8s? So the same data that is in our list, it's in our frequency table, and now it's in our dot plot. The thing about the dot plot is it's very visual. It's a picture. So if I ask you what's the mode, all you have to do is look to see which column is the highest. And you can say, oh, I can see that the mode is 6. Now you could find it in the table as well, but I think it kind of jumps out at you a little bit more in the dot plot. You can see though most of the numbers are fairly evenly spaced. If I wanted the range, well, the highest one is 8 and the lowest one is 0, so 8 minus 0 equals 8. My range is 8. If I wanted to know how many people were in the survey, I could just count the dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And we can call those observations, or 18 participants. So the dot plot is pretty easy to make, and it's pretty easy to read as well. It just takes a little bit of practice. One more thing we want to talk about in terms of dot plots, though, is shape. If you have your math notebook handy, it might be a good idea to write down these terms, the shape of the data. We have symmetric, we have uniform, and we have skewed. Symmetric, if you remember the word symmetric, symmetric is like if you could fold it in the middle and it would be the same on both sides. It's a mirror image. So if you fold a shape in the middle, and it's about the same on both sides. It's symmetric. So we can see this one is perfectly symmetric. This one is not exactly symmetric because this is a little bit higher than this one, and this is a little bit lower than this one, but overall, that's a symmetric shape. It doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical, just the basics. Uniform, well, like when you wear a uniform, everything is the same. And that is what we're talking about, where all the data is about the same. This one is perfectly uniform, totally level, all the same. This one, there's some that are a little bit higher or a little bit lower, but really overall, this is pretty level or uniform. Skewed. Skewed is when it leans to one side, when it shifts. So if we look at this one, you can see most of the data is over here, and then it goes a tail to the right, and this is skewed right. If you look at this one, most of the numbers are here on the right, and the tail goes to the left, and that one is skewed left. So we have symmetric shapes, uniform shapes, and the skewed can be skewed to the right or skewed to the left. So your assignment today is a really short example problem. Then you have an exit ticket, and again, like we've been doing the last few days, if you miss one, it's editable. Go back and try it again. Make sure you get them all right before you move on. You have 2 Khan Academy assignments today, creating dot plots and reading dot plots and frequency tables. I know there's 2, but each of them is only 4 questions, so they're not very long. Then we have a hands-on activity with rolling dice. If you have actual dice at your house, you can get away from your computer screen for a bit, roll some dice, make a frequency table and a dot plot. If you don't have dice, there's a link to virtual dice, and you can stay at your computer and use virtual dice to do the assignment. All right, just to give you a brief explanation of the hands-on activity, you're going to toss a number cube 20 times, or 2 number cubes 20 times. So I have a frequency table that I've made on my paper that is like this one, difference and frequency. We're going to roll the dice and we're going to subtract the 2 numbers. So if the numbers are the same, we would get 0. If I had a 6 and a 1, it'd have a difference of 5. So we're going to do that 20 times, and then we're going to make a dot plot. Then we're going to repeat that, but doing the sum of the 2 numbers, and that will have different outcomes. If you're going to sum, if you're going to add them together, what's the least sum you can get? The smallest sum you can get is 2. What's the greatest or largest sum that you can get? Well, with 2 dice, the largest sum you can get is 12. So while the difference goes from 0 to 5, the sum is going to go from 2 to 12. So let's take a look at how we would do this. We have our frequency table. We're going to roll our dice. 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay, let's do it again. 5 minus 2 is 3. And we're going to do this 20 times. 6 minus 5 is 1. Once you have your numbers, then you're going to make your dot plot. And you're going to put your dots in. And you should have 20 dots because you're supposed to roll 20 times. And then once you do difference, you go ahead and do the sum. We'd ask you to take a picture of this work and submit it in Google Forms so that we can take a look at it and make sure you're on the right track with your frequency tables and your dot plots. If you have questions, I'll be in Google Hangouts.